advanced manufacturing processes are maybe more accessible now. And there is a big challenge to do with electrification, with hydrogen, with all the energy transition.
Hi, I'm Lieven. I'm CEO of Diabatix and host of the TheCoolingChannel podcast. In this podcast, I interview experts and leaders in the field of thermal engineering. In today's episode, I will be talking to Jean-Michel Hugo from the company TEMISTH, a company he started himself about 10 years ago. TEMISTH develops customized solutions for thermal systems, primarily focusing on advanced manufacturing methods. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Hi, Jean-Michel. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, good to be here. Hi, Lieven.
Hey, Jean-Michel. So it's great to have you here. It's first time that first time that we have a real extensive talk. It was only via our LinkedIn network that we got connected, but it's the first elaborate talk. So maybe I think I speak for quite a few people that don't know you yet, or we don't fully know you yet. So maybe let's immediately change that. So could you maybe just start with introducing yourself, introducing your company, TEMISTH, what you do exactly, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Lieven, for the invitation. First, it's a very, very good idea to create this podcast on thermal systems. To introduce myself, maybe very, very shortly. I'm engineer, specialized in mechanical engineering and more precisely on heat exchanger design. I performed my PhD in a French laboratory, UST laboratory. It was very interesting because it was an industrial thesis. So I was in the field of academic research and also in the field of industrial production of heat exchangers. And just after my PhD, I've created TEMISTH. So it's the end of my experience before TEMISTH. But it has a huge impact on the following of my career because it gave me the love of making research on heat exchangers, and also to be very close to industrial problems.
And how long ago was that you started the company?
10 years ago now, yeah.
10 years,
in 2012, yeah. Similar like you, I think, no?
Yeah, it's more or less the same, yeah, indeed. So also a big celebration coming up then. What makes the company unique, or what is it that you do with TEMISTH?
What make you unique? I don't know exactly, but what we do is to develop customized solution of thermal systems in several areas. We are involved everywhere. Thermal system is an issue, and since 10 years, this spirit of solving thermal problems bring us to many different areas of industry, from aerospace, from energy, automotive, etc., furnace sizing, etc. So very different things, and a lot of different people and know-how in thermal engineering. So what we do concretely is to we ensure sizing, simulation, conception, but also prototyping by advanced manufacturing systems. It may be what is the difference between classical heat exchanger manufacturer. We use additive, friction stir welding, or combination of several advanced production systems. And finally, we're also able to make tests to confirm the sizing we made, the simulation we made by testing our prototypes. And what is new since some months also, we are also able to make production of small series. So we dedicated to niche market. And maybe what is the main difference for us, niche market had very high added value, and ensuring everything from the sizing to the small production.
Yeah, and you do all of that in house, or is it partly with partners, or is it?
There is partners, but we are integrating more and more things. What we are doing in-house, it's simulation and sizing. We have everything from the software to the capacity, the HPC capacities. We have integrated also CNC and friction stir welding in last September. And we have also some test loop for cold plate or for small heat exchangers, for small power heat exchangers. And for additive manufacturing, we have a partnership mainly with Team Henri Fabre. That is an association that is promoting the industry of future in the southeast of France. And there is several companies, and we are not sharing, but we can have easy access to additive manufacturing machine to make tests, etc. But maybe in the future, it's scheduled to integrate it also the AM inside the company.
Yeah. So at this moment, you don't do the printing yourself yet. That's done via partners. But from what I understand, it's the AM is really quite an important part of your the design work that you do is very much oriented towards additive manufacturing.
Yeah, it's important, but not the only one technology. We are not pushing our customer to use additive manufacturing if it is not the best manufacturing process. If the price is too high and we can improve the performance by CNC and reduce the price by 10, we will use CNC and friction stir welding, for example. So we are not pushing in AM, but as we can say that in additive manufacturing, we know since several years the benefit, but we also know what are the limits. And we try to be honest with the customer to say, okay, don't use it if it is not needed, and use it because we think that there is a solution in this way.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting. So, is there like a rule of thumb there that you would say, okay, if do you have like a rules of thumb that you could say, okay, in that context, by definition, it will be interesting, or in that context, it will for sure never be used or never be cost efficient.
It depends on actually it depends on the customer. I have an example, maybe two examples. 2 years ago, there is a customer that arrived he wants to make a specific heat exchangers by additive manufacturing. But when we discover his drawing, the heat exchangers was very big. And we say, okay, but you need 500,000 to produce this exchangers.
Okay.
And he said, okay, but we schedule to make 10 times cheaper. And with my colleague Sebastian, specialized in advanced manufacturing, he told me maybe we can do by other way and reduce sharply the price. And we propose them to, okay, give up on additive manufacturing because the price is a target for you. And we arrive to have to the best compromise between performance and price. We maybe reduce 2 or 3% the performances, but we reduce 10 times the price. And also other way, for some customers, they just are in the innovation step without price target. But after making the first prototype, we say, okay, we produce entirely the heat exchangers by additive manufacturing. It was very interesting for the core of the heat exchangers, but it was a nightmare for the flanges, for the connection, etc. And we can propose you something better and maybe cheaper because we will just produce the core of the heat exchanger by additive manufacturing and then make an hybridization with assembly, welding, or friction stir welding, for example.
Okay. Yeah, and do you do that with a big team? Is it with many people in the company, or how many do that particular type of work?
Yeah, this time we are mostly around 10 people, main engineers. My wife is also supporting me, but we don't have to say it for free. She's engineer, but it was more for the administrative stuff. And mainly engineers, CFD engineers, PhD, also mechanical engineers. And recently, the last employee was for the CNC machines, more technician that work on the CNC machine. But in the past, we were a little bit bigger, but we survived to the crisis. So, but we're still here, but we reduce the size of the company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have quite a skilled group of engineers. Eh? A big part of them have a PhD, and then most of them are engineers. Sounds like you have quite some knowledge in house to solve quite challenging problems. I would say then.
Yeah, and this kind of people can do three things at the same time. So
yeah, my wife would know how to complete that. So, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, so Jean-Michel, so you started 10 years ago with the company, and that was after then doing your PhD in the same topic. But yeah, of course, yeah, I speak from experience when I say switching from research to business. That's quite a step. So, but what surprised you the most, or what was for you the most, shocking, or surprised you the most when you actually entered the real world of thermal engineering, so to speak, so the business world of it?
I would like to say that is the separation of several domains. People that, for example, people that work in electronics say heatsink. People that work in automotive say radiator. There is heat exchangers, and there are several words to say the same thing. And sometimes people that work in electronics have the solution, for example, for automotives. It was 10 years ago. Now, as electronics and automotive is the same thing. It's clear that there is connection. But what I was surprising, as I was working for several domains, from the combustion in furnace to space application or automotive application or electronics, is that the people were not communicating and sharing their solution.
The terminology was different. You mean that?
And just, true, and just because sometimes the terminology was not the same. I remember I was speaking to heatsink, and the guy at the end of you were speaking about radiator. Yeah.
No, but indeed, now you mentioned it, we have had that same observation, especially with the confusion between heatsink and heat exchanger. That for us, heat exchanger was two fluids or multiple fluids. Heatsink is single fluid, and indeed, then you suddenly come to the conclusion like, hey, but wait, they're actually talking about heat sinks. Well, they call it heat exchangers, and then suddenly you come to the conclusion like, oh, we should update our website. With some additional wordings.
If you had the guy that are speaking only French and they have several words or so.
Then especially when they're only speaking French, then it becomes really a mess. Huh? No, just kidding. Okay, so but and what has been your biggest struggle? So you got started 10 years ago. You mentioned then that the company you had to reduce the size a bit over the past years due to COVID crisis primarily. Was that then the biggest struggle that you had, or was it something else?
I think everything arrived at the same time, but when I created the company 10 years ago, it was just after my PhD, and the goal was not to manage people. My goal was to sell my skills that I developed on the use of metal foams heat exchangers and apply it to people that are needing expertising. And unfortunately, I discovered additive manufacturing and the way to create metallic foams without a classical way of production. And I start to say, okay, there is something to do in additive manufacturing for heat exchangers. We can start from a blank page and create a new kind of heat exchangers. And after that, I employ my first employee was Damien Serre, that I give salute here.
I hope he watches.
I hope. And he's still in the boat, in the crazy boat since the beginning. So special dedicate for him. I start my first employee. He made his PhD with me, so he was knowing me before. And I start to need a third employee, and then again. And when I arrived about 14 employees, it was in the middle of the COVID crisis, and the worst thing to manage was not the technical issues. I think it's easier to make fly a satellite than managing 14 engineers. So yeah, maybe it was how to delegate, to give some task, and as I was alone at the beginning, I tried to stay my hand on everything, and so yeah, it was the biggest difficulties. And if I have to give an advice to people that are managing companies, starting like me from a technical formation at the beginning, take care of human relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, don't take them for granted. So it's indeed, yeah. Well, speaking from experience, we have here about 10 engineers, 15 engineers walking around. Yeah, I know the struggle it can be. So and how do you see it evolving for the next 5-10 years?
The goal is to go in the manufacturing way. Not only for additive manufacturing, but we know that advanced manufacturing processes are maybe more accessible now, and there is a big challenge to do with electrification, with hydrogen, with all the energy transition. So what we want to do is to focus to sell services plus the final part. After it will depend on which part we want to sell. But for example, for cold plate, for battery, for electronics, we are ready to produce small batches, maybe less than 1,000 parts per year. For additive manufacturing, what we are looking for is for a partnership with an industrial to go in the industrialization. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, during my PhD, I was working in an heat exchanger factory in south of France, and I know what is it. It's not only buying a computer with a software. It's more difficult than that to produce heat exchanger. So, yeah, what I think in next 5-10 years is hydrogen, space application, and electronics application that will be more and more important. With a very important point on the energy efficiency, that will need to create small batches of production and customize parts.
Mm-hmm. And is it then mostly in France itself, or are you already operating on a broader scope? Or
today mainly in France. We try abroad before the COVID. We try in China, in USA, after the COVID, we try in Germany. It's difficult. We have only one big customer abroad, but mainly in France. Europe can be a good market, maybe USA too, but you know that after the COVID crisis, maybe there is other crisis, and so we focus on our market, maybe aerospace and defense in OTAN countries. Not OTAN, yeah.
No, but it makes sense. It makes sense. So definitely, especially with when you want to provide, my opinion, if you provide services and also do the production, or want to provide the parts as well, and then makes sense to do it first of all locally, and especially France. I mean, you have a big industry there, so I think you have plenty of opportunities to grow the company within the country.
Yeah,
I'd say, so.
In Europe there is plenty of opportunity. When I was young, I was imagining that USA was the biggest country for technology, high technology, etc. But if you look in Europe, in England, in Germany, in Belgium, in Italy, Spain, etc., and other countries, there is a lot of knowledge and technology and big companies that produce very high technology in anything. So we have a lot of opportunity in Europe, and there's a place.
I couldn't agree more. Definitely, absolutely. So Jean-Michel, what motivated you to participate in the podcast? Because actually, the moment I asked you, it was I don't think you had to give it much thought, because I think you almost immediately said, "Oh yes, I want to do this." So why? I think it's nice to have you here. But what triggered you?
two things. First, when I see that it's a message from you, okay, it's a good thing. I want to meet him since a long time. So yes,
I hope it's not a disappointment.
I think the podcast idea, I say it's very interesting because thermal engineering is always the last. I don't know the translation on English for that, but the last wheel of the car. In French, we have an expression like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we say that is the fifth wheel of the car. So thermal engineering is in the core of everything, in the core of energy efficiency systems. And people look at this at the end. They are producing electronic device. Oh, it's heating at the end. We have to cool it down. Okay, but maybe if you will integrate it at the beginning. So yeah, it's very interesting to make a focus on thermal engineering, and good idea to make a podcast. And after it's a good thing. We have a very good exchange. So human exchange. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So and in your opinion, where do I touched upon an interesting topic because I heard that already quite a few times with the talks I had in this podcast that thermal engineering is very often somewhere the last thing that companies consider during the product design process, and then basically it's up to the thermal engineers to make sure that the product works and keeps on given the heat load, etc., that's created from functional point of view. Do you think it will, in your opinion, do you think it will remain like that, or how do you see thermal engineering and the importance of it as a whole evolving over the next few years?
Thermal engineering is the core of everything. I think thermal transfer is involved in 90% of all industrial processes. It is a core and the keys of energy efficiency, and we all know that we are in energy crisis. So thermal engineering is not ready to disappear.
Okay, that sounds very very good for our businesses.
Yeah.
All right. Jean-Michel, I think that brings me to the last part of this podcast, the shockwave round. I briefly explained you already what it is. I have a few small questions for you. Just try to answer them as short as you can, and then to really get the last. The last piece of advice that you can share to get it out of you. So that's the goal. So maybe let's immediately start with the most obvious question then. What's the best piece of advice that you were ever given?
I've given or I received?
That you have ever received. Yes, that you have ever received.
The first is to focus on technology and try to understand what technology is for. Not only on equation, but try to understand what is the goal of technology and the use in the life. It's not really an advice, but yeah. And the second one that I was not following is to take care about human relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, and this one I haven't followed it, and but now I know that it's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have a favorite quote?
I don't know if I have a favorite quote, but I think it will not. If my wife is watching to the podcast, she will not be agree with that, but. Never do today by yourself what you can do tomorrow by someone else. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I know it's no favorite quote. Yeah, lot of quotation, but maybe if you meet my colleague, they will say, okay, we'll every time say that or that on.
Is there a book that you would recommend to read?
Not a book. I would like to say to people that are looking for a book, don't look on internet. Go to a library and take a book randomly. You will find something that you are not looking for. Because when you try to read a book on the internet, you will find what you are looking for. And so go to a library, choose. And maybe if I have an advice for a book, the last book that I bought in the library is about the life of Winston Churchill. Randomly, and because I just know this life during the World War II, as everyone, but his life before, it's totally crazy. So if you have the opportunity to read this,
yeah. But very very interesting advice. That take a random book because it might surprise you and you might open your eyes. That's
and open your mind to a new thing.
Yeah. Very interesting advice. Is it what's the one characteristic that you're thankful to have and that helps you in your current job?
Endurance and patience. We have a discussion last week about the terminology in English because the dictionary, we're not sure about the translation. If people are looking and can translate from French to English, it's têtu in French. So it means that when I have an idea in my mind, it's difficult to forget it, and I want to go to the end. Even it is difficult to reach this the goal.
Yeah. To stick to your idea and push forward until you reach the goal.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything you would recommend to young engineers who would enter the world of thermal engineering?
Yeah, I think first is to be curious to several domains, as I explained previously. If you are working on electronics, take a look to what happened in, I don't know, waste industry, to space application, to a lot of things to be curious. And the second thing maybe is to don't focus on a tool that you are using. You can take a look to people, to what people have done in the past. So first thing before starting to push button of software is to make a bibliography and to check. It doesn't mean that after you don't have to use Diabatix or other software, but first
you can, of course, you can.
but if you use Diabatix with an experience before, you will be a better result because you will understand what is the software is doing, and so. You understand what I mean? Is
absolutely. I agree.
Take bibliography and look what people did in the past and to compare and to say, okay, now they did that, why, and now how can I improve it? I think recent tools like all the numerical tools are allowed to us now.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Last question, and then we can call this a day. Who do you think I should invite next for the next Cooling Channel episode?
So maybe one guy in France, Mr. Christophe Weber, is a director of GRET. GRET is a group of research on heat exchangers in France. It's a club of industrial, so it can be a good thing in France, and maybe abroad. If you have to spend a very good time, you have to invite Mr. Hogg from AKG.
Okay, Thomas. Albert.
Thomas.
Thomas. Yeah. Okay, that's let's try to get both on the show. So right.
He's Belgian too. Yeah.
He's Belgian. Yeah, I have met him in the past. So it's a good suggestion. I'll reach out to him as well. All right, Jean-Michel, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you here on the Cooling Channel, and I wish you all the best of luck with growing the business to the next step.
Thank you very much, Lieven, for the invitation. As it is the end of the year, I don't know. Yeah, the podcast will be online at the beginning, so but
very soon. So.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Yeah.
And as we say in Provence, I will translate it in English. If we are not more people next year, we just hope that we are not be less. It means that there is no people, no new births. There is no people that are leaving us. So
all right, Jean-Michel, thanks a lot. Wish you all the best, and speak very soon. All right, bye.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.